How's everyone doing? You guys doing okay? So here's the deal. I was gonna write this essay about some of the things I was thinking about art and medicine, and I sat down, I had the Google Doc in front of me, and I realized I can't do it. I can't do it because I don't actually fully know what it is I want to say, and I also don't have time. So I'm just gonna do this. I'm gonna talk for a little while into my microphone here, and I'll just go until I think I've hit a conclusion about what I want to say, or until my battery runs out, which is gonna be soon. Sound good? Okay, hi. For anyone who doesn't know me, there's 3 things you should probably know. 4. First is my name, I guess, but it says it there. Second thing is I'm a little bit sick. So I'm gonna be coughing throughout this whole video, and you kind of have to deal with it. Third is that I am a painter. I'm a painter. I'm painting this painting. It's in progress, which is why it looks like a half-finished painting. My favorite parts are down in the corner that you can't see, so just trust that it looks good, or don't trust me, it probably doesn't look that good. And the third thing you should know about me is that I'm a medical student. In fact, wait, hang on one second. Is this even like, is this anything? Is this a thumbnail? All right, look at that. Look at that, John Ma, medical student in his white coat. I look ridiculous, I'm gonna take it off. But proof, right? You can't get one of these without being in medical school. That's what they tell you to pay $200,000 for. Why do I say all this? I have been thinking that art and medicine should come together better. And I'm not super sure why, for me, it doesn't. That's the starting point. Those are the thoughts that I want to kind of work through, and you're here to work through them with me. I'm going to lay out the ground rules here first. Number 1 thing, not medical advice. I'm a first-year medical student. We're not going to be talking about art therapy and the ways that people think it helps them, or the ways that people think it doesn't help the people who think it helps them. Not interested. We're not going to talk about like the connections between art and like the brain, man, and how maybe creativity is the missing link for understanding neuroscience. Fascinating, interesting. I've done a whole video linked somewhere here maybe about that, but not the focus here. Second thing about the art. Art is super subjective, okay? You can like it, you can like what you like. If you like paintings of bodies and surgeons, if you like the people who do those really good like muscular diagrams or like anatomy diagrams, that's awesome. You know, I like them too. I'm gonna put up a picture here of an artwork that I did in college when I was getting a degree in art, where I took bleach, okay, interesting material, but I was just like copying Grey's Anatomy. Like I took an anatomy textbook and I was drawing the anatomy on a t-shirt with bleach. Here it is. Pretty cool, right? Like people were into that. I made like hats, and I made tank tops, and I made sweaters. If I'm editing this, they're going in here. If I'm not editing it, just imagine them there. And people love them. They're a hit. So I'm not saying you can't love art about medicine, and I'm not saying that you can't hate it either, because I'm kind of in that category where I don't know how I feel about art and medicine, and it's weird to me that these 2 fields don't come together better. So at my med school, we have like distinctions, which are kind of like specialization, like subcategories of things you can do. So like medical Spanish or research as a distinction, right? And one of the distinctions that they're piloting is a art and medicine distinction, and it seems really cool. Most of the students who are creating it, like piloting it, seem to be interested in music and medicine, which I think has a lot of like, that's very rich, you know, music theory, music therapy, that's all like good stuff. But there's also visual art, and they point to some paintings, and they're like, look at this, there are visual artists who are doctors, and isn't that cool? And in the abstract, I agree, right? Like I have to agree. Hi, my name is John Ma, I am an artist, and I'm a med student, and clearly I have aspirations to be a medical artist. I want to be a doctor-artist or an artist-doctor, and I should be so supportive of medical-art. And every time I see it, I don't like it. And I don't know why. So at the beginning of all of my professors' lecture PowerPoints, they put a little image. So they'll say, you know, gross anatomy of the lungs, and look at this painting of a lung, and they credit it to the artist, which I think is really cool. And I don't know of a single one of these that I've been interested in as an art object. Now, of course, the medium is the message, and in this case, the message here is let's learn the gross anatomy of the lung. I'm not blind to that. Maybe I would be more interested if I saw them in an art context, right? So you take this same picture of a lung and you hang it on a white wall in a gallery, and you put some wall text on it describing the artist's thought processes, and now bada bing bada boom, John Ma is a fan. I am a fan of medical art. But I don't think that would happen. And even if it does that defeat the purpose of medical art? Hear me out, right? If medical art can only function as an art object within an art context, then you're not really making medical-art, you're making art about medicine. The other day I was at Half Price Books looking for some gold finds, just something to read. I don't know, I don't have time to read, but I think if I buy a book, it will make me carve out time to read. Hasn't worked, but I'm getting there. And and I find two things. First thing, I find this. Just the John Ma Show and Tell Day, apparently. First off, this is so unrelated, but it's so funny. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this book. Of Many, One. Is it gonna focus? It's George W. Bush. It's literally the portraits by George W. Bush. I think I knew intuitively that George Bush was a painter. Obviously, he was a painter, and he was a pretty decent painter, and that's always the thing people have said about him. And here's a book of his paintings, and they're like pretty good. Like this Henry Kissinger. It's war criminal core. But it's fascinating. Unrelated. This is not medicine. This is just art. I saw another book that I didn't buy, and the reason I didn't buy it is going to become clear, which is that a book called Art and Medicine. Great, fascinating title. I was already thinking about this essay, or it ended up not being an essay. I was already thinking about this video, and here's this book called Art and Medicine. I should buy it. It's $7.49, and I don't. And the reason I don't buy it is because these are all like European lithographs from the 1800s of doctors. That's it, right? Doctors and the most straightforward depictions of maladies that you could imagine. So, you know, leprosy has a biblical tinge to it, and malnourishment looks like a malnourished person. And that wasn't exciting for me because it was art about medicine. In the same way that you can have art about landscapes, art about the Little Ice Age, with like Peter Bruegel's, or Bruegel, or however you want to pronounce it, with his paintings of the Little Ice Age, right? People ice skating. You can have art about jazz, and you wouldn't call that jazz art, because when I think of jazz art, there is a thing for that, right? I'm thinking of multimedia sound art. I'm thinking of the ways in which the improvisational nature of jazz, like the core of jazz, imbues itself into the work, right? There's Piet Mondrian's jazz work, I'm gonna put that over here, and then there's artwork about jazz, and they can both be great. Again, you are allowed to like medical art, but why do we only have this, and what can we have here? So I don't know what I'm looking for in medical art. I don't know if I'm going to get my med school's distinction in medical art. Oh, don't worry about my microphone, by the way. It was never on. It already ran out of battery. It's just, using it as a prop so I could feel less self-conscious talking at nobody here. I want to be able to explore the concept without the easy depictions. And with medical art, the challenge is that the concepts are hard to come by in and of themselves, and the depiction equally challenging. So let's start with the concepts. Why do I think the core ideas of medicine are harder to distill than, for instance, the core ideas of jazz? Obviously, I'm oversimplifying jazz here. Obviously, jazz contains more complexity than I can give it credit for, but I like jazz art. I don't like medical art, so that's the distinction. That's what I need to explore here. The concepts are hard because the material is dense. I think that's part of it, right? Because if we are only interested in pursuing the concept of medicine, then we can write. Writing is capable of capturing that. And there is good writing about medicine. I've read countless fascinating books about medicine. I love The Emperor of All Maladies, classic pre-med book. The first book I read when I realized I might want to apply to med school. I need to catch up on the reading that my peers had been doing. Great book, full of just dense science. As a lay audience at the time, I was learning. I had to learn so much background. So many of the chapters were just, here is like basic cancer biology so that you can understand the personal drama that I'm going to describe 3 chapters from now. And it was so successful, but maybe that's the barrier conceptually for medicine, is the homework. But I don't think that's it, because I'm doing the homework. I'm not literally doing the homework, because instead of doing the homework, I'm recording a video here. But I'm doing the homework. I have since reading The Emperor of All Maladies understood more about cancer biology, and I still have a hard time putting my finger on the concepts. And the other reason for that then isn't just the homework, it's the people, right? It's that medicine, maybe more than other expression, is so personal. Charles Mingus puts a lot of his personhood into jazz, and he puts a lot of personhood into his audience, and I still don't think that's as much as a surgeon puts into his hands, and as much as that surgeon has to recognize that his hands are resting within another person. And so, good medical art is portraiture and self-portraiture. It's autobiography and biography. Tracy Kidder's book, Mountains Beyond Mountains, not really a medical book. It's a doctor book, but it's a global health book. It's a lot of things. Mountains Beyond Mountains, it's a biography of the doctor, Paul Farmer himself. And it's a biography of many of his patients. But it's not a book about medicine. It's a book about Paul Farmer, and it's a book about all of his patients. So, is it good medical art? What are the concepts? Is medicine about the pursuit of science? That's one concept that's at the core. This kind of like bleeding edge, cutting edge, white coat vibe. Is medicine about people, about laying hands, about healing hands, and about the people who receive them? Is it about justice and equity and equality? Is it about the species as a whole, the continuation of the species, the elongation of life and the quality of it? Is it a job? We've had art that depicts jobs before. That's very important. And so maybe it's that. So here are the concepts now that I want to start working with. If I'm making medical art, if I'm interested in medical art, here are things that we can pursue. Is it sociological? Is it the sick role, right? That's been well explored. Susan Sontag writes beautifully about sickness and illness and pain. And that's good art, right? Okay, so now I do enjoy medical art, because when it's art about illness, when it's art about struggle through illness, when it's about our social failings to treat illness, art about the AIDS crisis and the ongoing AIDS crisis is deeply moving. It's important. It's art about medicine. It's medical It's art about medicine, because medical art is taking the other side of that bargain, completing that catch, picking it up and saying, okay, now let's make that same moving, impactful piece about healing, about receiving treatment. Is it a Western medicine? Oh, this is a whole nother thing, but this is not what we're getting into, but I hate this idea of Western medicine. Let's just put that out there. But as a simple stand-in in this particular instance for like the American healthcare industry, which is what people sometimes want to say when they say Western medicine, is the problem the American healthcare industry. Because again, there's moving and interesting art about herbal remedies, about family care, about the wisdom passed down through the family to heal the body in the way the American healthcare industry tries to, often succeeds at, and also just as often falls short in. Concepts. Okay, so we're throwing all the concepts out there, and so maybe that's not the problem. There's plenty of people, more sophisticated people than I are currently thinking about this. And so the concepts are fine, and then is the problem the execution? Because we're back down to like a Mondrian boogie woogie problem, which is that how do we capture these concepts? I was talking a lot about text. Great books, great articles, great podcasts, great video essays about these things. Why do I not feel moved by great art about these things? And so let's look at these concepts. Let's look at them and let's talk about them, right? The first one I mentioned, the hard science. There is art depicting this hard science, and universally, it does not speak to me. Medical art has a micrography problem. Because when we want to capture these cutting, bleeding edge things, we can't capture visible light and we can't capture macro scale objects, or like large scale objects, because these are things that people have seen since time immemorial, for the most part. What do? We zoom in, and we pick a really high resolution micrograph slide, a really high resolution 3D render of something really small, the atom, the cell, the virus, the viral particle, the genome, whatever. You've seen a billion of these. And they're all bad. They look good on the cover of Science or Nature if you're subscribed to these papers, but they don't speak to me. Because the clinicalness with which they were captured has stripped away so much of what they don't want to depict that all I am left to interpret is what is given to me. I can try to look at this graphic of all the cell organelles, the most detailed rendering of a cell, which first of all isn't. That's been debunked. But also, I can only see it for what it is. Or make very straightforward metaphors. Oh, doesn't it kind of look like a bustling city? Or a really packed ball pit? Is that interesting? No, it doesn't do it for me. Scientists were interested in what the mandibles of an ant looked like, and so they zoomed in on the mandibles of an ant, and it doesn't make me appreciate scientists or ants more for it, which is fine. That's not the goal of these kinds of images. But so long as we have a combative relationship between the sciences and the arts, so long as scientists don't feel like artists and artists don't feel like scientists, art about the hard sciences are going to have a micrography problem. And so there's a concept that is worth exploring, maybe. Like, what is the, okay, all right, I'm working on it. I'm spitballing. This is what this is. This is a therapy session, but mostly it's an inspiration session. I want to come up with new ideas. You can't see, but just off screen here, you can see the corner. Just off screen here, I have two big blank canvases that I was going to paint on, and I hate the ideas I have for them, and it's because I want to do medical art. And medical art has a body problem, which is my second concept I wanted to talk about. Okay, so we can talk about patients and their subjectivity. We can do art the same way Tracy Kidder does Paul Farmer's Patience, which is tactily, emotionally, and at its core, medical art has a body problem. Because when you do that, when you do paintings of the receivers or the givers of medicine, you are painting bodies. Medical art is obsessed with bodies. If I had a time machine and I had done all the standard time machine things already and had one thing that was just for me, I would go back in time and save a few more of Leonardo da Vinci's drawings so we're not just stuck with the one, what is it, the guy doing this? Because ever since that image has become the prevailing image of a human body, it has been co-opted in a medical context to be, at its crux, what medical art is trying to be. And can we stop trying to be Da Vinci for a second and realize that the depiction of the body is the oldest form of human expression? And you'd think that might make it richer. You'd think that might make our contemporary medical art depictions of bodies more exciting, but it doesn't. It makes them tired. It makes them worse versions of the Vitruvian man, whatever, the Da Vinci guy. So let's move on, right? And so, okay, so I've got these two canvases here. Maybe you can see them, those guys. I've got these two canvases here, and here's the idea, right? I want to do something like this. Can you see? I want the vocabulary of the body, but aligned less organically or more organically, like stones, like figures. I want to capture the feelings that you get looking at bodies, the feelings that you get from looking at a lot of bodies, a lot of times, and translate them into new forms, into organic masses. You know, it's a little bit. I have no mouth, but I must scream. Like the spoilers for that short story, but like the end result of that story. And I want to do this because I want to explore what I can do with the body that's not with the body, because we've been with the body for so long. And I think it's not going to look good. Okay, but that's not the point. That's not the point. There's a saying that there's in like with art school, there's your creating brain and there's your critiquing brain, and you should know which one you're putting on when you're putting it on, and don't swap too soon. So make first, make with the creation brain, make interested in material and form and texture and color, make zoomed in really close, and then step back. Take out that brain and put in your critiquing brain, and then think from there. Start thinking through the ideas. What are you trying to communicate? Are you doing a good job? And I should be in the first mindset, because I'm not creating, and critique is preventing me from creation. So I'm still going to paint those paintings. I have ideas about what I want those paintings to say, what I want them to do, and we'll talk about them if I finish them. But medical art has a body problem. And it's a distance problem too, right? Like maybe I'm not interested in medical art because I've gotten too close to them. Okay, so hear me out here. Obviously I like watching video essays. I'm currently recording a kind of a video essay. It's not an essay because I didn't write it, but it's a video and I'm talking, right? And what I've realized in my tenure with video essays is that I know what kind of video essay I like, and I know what kind of video essay I don't like. And the kind of video essay that I'm going to appreciate without fail is about something I have no knowledge about. We've all been there, right? You're sitting there, you're eating your lunch or your dinner, and you need to put something on. Next thing you know, you're watching a 4-hour video about some video game you've never played. It's a lot of video games, movies you've never watched, TV shows you don't care about, reality TV drama that you will never be interested in. When I think of the things that I've liked, not just the things that I'll put on while I'm eating food, but the video essays that have spoken to me, that have made me want to create on my own, right? The few creators who seem endowed with this power of inspiration, who like little fairies sprinkle inspiration dust on all the things that they do, and that inspiration is contagious. Those videos are always about things I don't care about. Dan Olson, Folding Ideas, his video about James Rolfe. I don't even know who James Rolfe is, the angry video game nerd. I've seen that video countless times because it's about James Rolfe, but it's not, right? I'm gonna get to that. That's the core. That's what I wanna get to. What you think they're about is never what they're about, right? I started off talking about medical art, and why am I talking about video essays? I'll get there. You'll see the connection, but watch to the end to get there, right? And maybe that's why video essays are also so popular on this platform, because that's a retention hack. You want to know why I brought this up, why I'm going to bring them together. And I promise you it's worth it. I'm going to get there. But look at what I've done. I've made a video worth watching that's even longer than it should be. So, good video essays. What makes a good video essay good? It's about a thing I don't care about, and it turns it into something I do care about. Not the video game or reality show itself, but the video essay itself, right? I still don't care about the angry video game nerd. I'm never going to be involved in the drama of James Rolfe. I care about this video essay itself because of the way it delivered it, the way it was able to connect itself to a broader meaning. About being an artist and not being the kind of artist you thought you were going to be. Boy, can I understand that. Boy, does that speak to me. And now we've gotten at the crux of what good art does. Good art doesn't just bite off good content. It doesn't just have a good message. It also delivers it in a way that repackages it, reconstitutes it in the mind of the viewer. Why does medical art not work? It's because it can't do the video essay thing. I can't make a good video essay about medical art because I know a lot about medicine and because I can't package it so well. So there's content out there, right? You can write about medicine. You can write about medicine in an artful way. Well, the visual medical art will always falter because of that second step, that translation step. And what that means to me as an artist, and what this hopefully means to you as an artist, or you who is interested in consuming art, is there is a really huge potential to be the person who is able to take these big ideas, so many big, great ideas, turn them into something powerful and meaningful and personal with strong metaphorical grounding that's moving and helpful. All right, let's do some conclusions here. I'm back with my fake microphone. I don't want this video to come off as extreme as I think I've made it out to be. Which is to say, I think medical art has a problem. At its core, yes, it's a micrography problem. I said it's a body problem, but really what medical art has is a but really at its core, what medical art has is a literality problem. So much of these depictions are too literal, and I am guilty of that. I've made a really just robust amount of the most straightforward and literal medical art you can imagine. I've made skeletons, and I've done things with an MRI. I did more skeletons, and I did more MRIs. I am as guilty as any other pre-med art student is, obviously. And I'm not done with it. I already told you guys I planned for these two paintings, and it's still pretty literal. But that doesn't mean good medical art hasn't been done before. That doesn't mean the field is doomed. Again, I think it has a lot of promise. If anything, it has more promise because of some of the pitfalls that I am seeing. I think it's important to end a video like this with examples of medical art that I do really enjoy. Not just for you guys, anybody who's actually watching, but for me. No artist has been inspired by saying, I hate everything around me, it's all dog water, and it's time to start anew, let's burn it all down. Even though artists who say that, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say they didn't mean all of it, because we draw from the influences that we appreciate, that we're surrounded by, and that we enjoy. So in an effort to surround myself in the influences that I want to follow from, when it comes to making more medical art. I want to shout out a couple of my favorite medical art pieces or works that I believe should be characterized as medical art, even if the artists may not have used those same words. So, here's some examples. Welcome to John Ma's 2025 list of medical art that he enjoys, a non-exhaustive look at some of the things that I can think of off the top of my head that should go right here in terms of things that I like. So, starting off, medical art that I enjoy. I mentioned earlier this idea of Western versus Eastern art and herbal medicines and more traditional passed down wisdom being an exciting avenue to explore. And one of the artists I was thinking of as I was saying that was Montien Bunma. So, if you hadn't seen this work, it was on display at the MoMA last year, I want to say, sometime maybe last summer. I thought it was fascinating. I loved the way that herbs and herbal remedies and these like hand-rolled pills can fill a room, that they work sensorially, and that's not only part of what makes an artwork of these work, but it's part of what makes the medicine work, right? So here's a great exploration of the mechanism of medicine and the mechanism of multimedia artwork coming together. Beautiful. Another example that I think is pretty good. I like this person I follow on Instagram, this artist on Instagram, June Sniff. I don't know anything about June. I don't even know if June is their name, but I know that their work is funny. It's so deeply humorous. It's abject sometimes. It uses these kind of like bodily elements in the way that we tend to see bodily elements used. And there's explicit references to medicine. It's critical, oftentimes. It seems to be skeptical of therapy, of psychiatry as a field. And I like that. I think that's interesting. Doctors are skeptical of psychiatry as a field. Patients are skeptical, and yet we engage in it. What are we getting out of it? Medical art. Fascinating. I like old medical art. I know I was kind of like saying bad things about how literal depictions of medicine can be uninteresting, and that's true, but also I like these paintings. I like this one here that I'm putting up, I hope, of a surgeon doing surgery and all these guys in big black coats looking over him, and I like contrasting it with this other image that I'm putting up here of surgeons and their white coats and the anesthetized patient and what has changed historically. I like that art can capture historical changes. Earlier I was talking about concepts in medicine, and one of the big concepts is medicine as career, medicine as just a thing that people wake up at 9 and they go home at 5 having done, right? And that is a history, and that is a history that can and will be captured in art. It'll be captured in photography, and that's exciting. So I like these pieces. I like this one of The House Call by who knows? Can't remember. I'll put it up on the screen. But I think that's the emotion, right? The autobiography of the doctor, the biography of the patient, and where they have come together in the medical practice. I think that's fascinating. I think it's deeply terrific. Indigenous work, obviously. Indigenous work that intersects medicine, always going to be exciting. But is it exciting because of the medicine? Not all the time, but sometimes it is. I'll give you a great example. Okay, great, perfect. The Renwick, I just pulled it up on my phone, but I totally remember. When I was in the Renwick in Washington, D.C. in 2023, I see these works. This is glass beads, this is wire, right? It was a lead up to a show, a lot about indigeneity. I mean, it's the Renwick, so a lot of it has to do with indigeneity. And it's about a DNA microarray, right? This is a literal depiction of a literal thing, and yet it moved me because of the medium, because of how this concept was expressed, right? I don't hate literal depictions, I just want to see them used more meaningfully. This is a great example. How can we capture the beauty of something as an object and the burden of something as a biopsychosocial phenomenon, right? The neuropathy is a problem biologically. It is also a problem socially because you take on a social sick role, and it becomes a problem psychologically because how that weighs on you. And how can we capture all of this in a beaded blanket? It's perfect. It's perfect how much it works, and that's what I want to see more of. Obviously, there's more examples, Again, if somehow you're watching this video, comment something down below that you thought of that I might have missed here. And so, okay, the problem with this kind of video, which is definitionally unscripted and impromptu, is it helps me reach certain conclusions, but also I cannot sign off on most of the things I said, right? A lot of these ideas are helping me get to my final idea, and I'm still not there. I want to think about this further, and I'm hoping that people can continue to provide insights that help me get to where I want to think about these things. But if you disagree, that's great. That's better. That's more than great. That's exactly what I'm looking for. I want to challenge these notions. If you love medical art, if you think the state of medical art is great and I'm just looking in the wrong places, or I'm looking in the right places and looking the wrong way, I want to know. Sound off below or contact me. I'm excited to chase this narrative down a little bit, especially when I have more time between school things. So thank you so much for watching. I guess comment, like, subscribe, do the things you need to do, but don't do them just for me, do them for you. And thanks for watching and listening to this rant. I hope it was interesting. I know I benefited from it, and that's all I need.